Welcome
to Dark Narratives. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Alexandria.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay, say that again.
Do you ever sing, like when you're doing stuff for your kids, like getting them food or something, or just out of nowhere, like sing and try to sing as loud as you can in like an opera singing voice?
Okay.
Do you ever do that?
Sometimes, but for me, it's more I dance wildly and then they
Okay.
get annoyed.
And then they get mad. Okay, I do the singing thing, and it's so terrible. and my oldest gets just livid. She's like, too loud. You're too loud. And she'll put her hands over her ears and she's like, Mommy, stop.
You're traumatizing her.
It is the funniest thing. Like, she hates when I start singing like that.
Yeah, like I'll make up little jiggles, but like it's funny because my eldest son, both my kids do it. So I don't know. I guess
do a dance.
No, not the dance. Like we make up songs.
Okay.
We make up jingles all the time, and my youngest, she's already does. Well, even I posted that one about Stinkle Stinkle Little Fart.
Yes, it was so cute.
They're always making up little jingles, and I don't sing in like an opera, but
I'm not an opera singer. All right, I'm just gonna get into it because everybody involved here is around 13, 14 years old.
Oh fuck! Is it solved?
It is solved, but it's just terrible. Everything about this is just terribleness. And it's actually in England this time. Yeah. So I'm gonna just start off by reading what the judge said at the sentencing.
Oh, okay.
So Judge Heather Norton says, because of some online petty argument, the three of you acted together to plan an attack, and because you are part of a culture that thinks knives are cool, something to show off about, you caused Olly's death. It was utterly cruel and totally pointless. You have taken one life and damaged your futures and have caused so much pain to so many. No one can know how your lives or Olly's would have turned out if you had not acted with such stupidity and cruelty.
Uh-oh.
So before we get to that moment that caused the judge to say this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Olly and what might have been going on in his life around this time.
Olly, I love that name.
Isn't that so cute?
Yes, I love that boy's name.
You should look up a picture of him. He's so cute. He's got like the curliest, voluminous hair.
Yes. Oh, and I'm not reading anything about the case or anything, but just Googling Olly Stevens with a PH.
Yeah.
Just looking at the photos. Oh,
right?
Yeah. Beauty.
Yeah. So Olly Stevens, he grew up in London, Berkshire, in a town called Reading. How freaking awesome is that?
So cool.
Like, I wish it's just such
I love the UK.
Right? It's just like a quaint and cozy name for a town. I really feel like I should live in a town like that.
I think you should. I know. I love they have like the moors and just cool. They cool little villages. I know.
Like the architecture and the history. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
He was born in 2007. So he's born on November 1st, 2007.
Which makes him a Scorpio?
I think so. So this would have happened, and this happened just shortly after his 13th birthday.
Oh.
So he was really young. He was the youngest to his parents, Amanda and Stuart, and he had an older sister. And it seemed like they were pretty close, like a pretty close family, and just loving and supportive household. The family was moving into the new year together, and just a little while before the new year, Ollie was actually diagnosed with a form of autism.
Oh, okay.
And he was described to be just a beam of light in everybody's lives, is kind of the vibe that I got.
Super outgoing.
Yeah, and just cared about, like, genuinely cared about the people around him and how people
No.
were feeling. And also, this is important too, he really cared about how people were treated as well.
It's very empathetic.
I was just gonna say, I kind of got the idea that he was a little bit like on the empath side for sure.
Yeah.
Like he really felt what people were feeling.
Okay.
And he was always doing funny things, making people laugh, making funny videos, things like that. And even though he was technically a little brother, he was very much like a big brother to his big sister, in just the way that
Oh,
just the way that he cared for her and he looked out for her.
I love that.
Right? Ollie had once wrote on a school assignment when he was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up. He said that he wanted to be happy and he wanted his friends and family to be happy because life was too short.
Oh, that is chilling.
Right? Like he's also just shows how much of an empath I feel like he was, you know?
Yeah, and kind of self-aware too, because what kid says that?
Mhm. Exactly. So Ollie would hang out with his friends and his family like any other young kid at the time. He seemed to have been entering a new phase of independence and learning. I mean, he was 13. So with this, kids have started to get cell phones like earlier and earlier every year,
Mm.
because I feel like that's the best way to keep in contact with their family. I don't really think a lot of places, when you're out and about, have like landlines and payphones, things like that. It's more common to have a cell phone now than reach out in any other way.
Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the norm for young people to have cell phones. I do think it'd be scary to think of one day my 13-year-old not having a phone. Like, I think like the thought of not being able to get in contact with my 13-year-old, I feel like would just be terrifying. Like, I'd want to know that I could reach them anytime I needed to.
Yeah, well, even now, sometimes I wish I can text my 7-year-old just to say, "Hey, I got you a donut on the way home."
Yeah, oh yeah. Like just a
Yeah.
little surprise, or just say, "Hey, I love you," things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but and also too, with these, like them having cell phones, there's the find my location now, so you can always see where
Right.
they are. I love that
Yeah.
feature. Not like so you can like keep tabs on them, but just make sure that they're safe. Like make sure they get where they need to be.
Yeah, if you haven't heard from them in a while or something.
Yeah. But there's an upside to this, but I mean, there's also a downside and the
Oh, I
worst
was
case.
wondering where this was gonna go.
Yeah, and there's also the worst case scenario that could happen.
He's like, yeah.
Because again, with cell phones, you immediately have access to social media if you want it. Pretty much all the phones are smartphones now. You can have access to social media anytime, anywhere. And with all of this, it was causing some concerns for Ollie too. I feel like it would honestly stress any kid out. I know I was scared to go to high school. It's a terrifying thought of just change is scary in general. And I could totally understand why he would have a lot of worries at that time. Yes, that's when he started to meet some older friends and not necessarily the best influence, if you will, on Ollie moving into high school. It seemed like the friends that he was starting to hang around with, from their online presence at this point anyway, they were just the hardest 14-year-olds you'd see. They
What?
would, yes, they seemed, their persona was that they wanted to look to the world that they were just hard as fuck and don't mess with them. And they're 14.
14?
They're
Okay.
14. Yes.
Calm down.
Yeah, so because of all of the people involved are minors and like very young minors at that, there's limited information on their identities and just their history and everything. So from what I have gathered, he had befriended two boys named Jack and Dan, and one of them was 13 and one of them was 14.
Okay.
One or both of them seem to be known to social services and throughout their school by the kids and the teachers. And they were described as violent kids and consistently threatening the people around them.
What the fuck?
Yeah. They would post many videos of themselves covering their face with balaclavas and like showing off the knives that they had. Like, not like actual knives, and they would just like kind of turn them and show them in the video. And like I think I seen one was like when they were like making like a stabbing motion, and yeah, just so many red flags.
Come and get your kids. Please,
Exactly.
someone.
Somebody please check what your kids are doing. And I was thinking too, I'm like, how are you even able to post things like this? Like, what is wrong with the algorithm that they're picking up on the most minuscule things, but then not picking up on something so triggering?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's gotten better since this case. Maybe stuff like this has made it better.
Well, I will say, like towards the end, when I will tell you that the parents of Ollie have really been trying to make changes because this is just terrible. They also seem to be friends or acquainted with a girl named Jess, and she was known to be a troublemaker. And I guess Ollie had knew Jess, but Jess had not met these two boys yet. And the boys, they were claiming that they were in a gang.
Mm-hmm.
So at 13 and 14. So there's that.
Wow. This is
So,
the UK.
Yeah.
I heard that there are some pretty rough parts of the
It's
UK.
just terrible. I can't believe they're so young. So with this information, you can start to imagine a little that this combination is just terrible in every which way you look at it. It seems like in the wake of Ollie becoming friends with these people, he was actually, in reality, being recruited into their gang.
What? And did he know this?
So it did start to come to light to Ollie. He was like being recruited, or at least he started to become entangled with the chaos that they were bringing into his life. And he did start to feel very overwhelmed. Not only was Ollie starting to hang out with these types of kids, but he was starting to post some questionable things, just starting to emulate some of their behavior, as you sometimes do when you're hanging out with, especially at this age. You're very easily
Impressionable.
Yes, you're very impressionable at this age. Yeah, so not only was he posting some questionable things that even his sister ended up calling him out on, there was also two bigger concerns that were weighing on Olly's parents that were leading up to what happens. I mentioned like in the beginning that there's the Find My Location app.
Yeah.
And this is something that Olly's family utilized so they could keep an eye on Olly, obviously, as I would do. There was a time that his mom went to check his location and see where he was, and it showed that he was moving down a train trail, like a train path.
Oh.
And she was obviously alarmed by this. But then just shortly, it's like he was on the train, got there, and like pretty much like fairly quickly he got back on the train and was already back home. So they're like, what the heck is he doing? Hey, buddy.
Aw.
And
Hold on. So it looked like he had gotten onto a passenger train and was heading somewhere.
yes, because he was moving so fast down that path. But then
Oh,
just like
scary.
quickly after he even got to where he got right back on and was already headed back back home. And I'm really not sure whether his dad met him at the train station or met him at home, but there was obviously a conversation that was had with his parents and they confronted him. But all Olly said was,
That's what he said.
oh my gosh, all Olly said was snitches get stitches.
Okay.
That would be so scary though for your kid to say that to you after your 13-year-old just left on a train and came back and that's what he has to say.
But you don't even, I don't know. I would be so annoyed by that.
I agree because I had actually said, like, so his dad was obviously dumbfounded by this response and didn't really know what to say. And I also, like, in my head, I'm like, that's very alarming. But also, he's a 13-year-old boy and everybody was kind of saying that at that time.
Yeah,
That
and it
snitches
just
get stitches.
reminds me of, yeah, and it reminds me of none of your beeswax, you know, just something stupid
Yes.
like that.
Yes, like just saying what like a common saying at the time and throwing it out there to your parents because you don't want to talk about it. So I could see how it could be alarming, but also maybe that's just you're gonna choose your battles in this instance and not like sabotage any other like time that your kid might open up to you. You know what I mean? Like you want to pick your
Yeah,
battles.
you want to pick your bat. Yeah, this isn't a
He's
hill you want to
home.
die on.
He's home. I think, they had a talk with him, so he obviously knows he probably shouldn't have done that. So just, yeah, a pick your battle situation. So, another circumstance is that Ollie had his bike stolen when he was out with these friends, and he was really
I'd be
upset about
pissed.
it. Right? He was really, really upset about his bike being stolen, and his dad tried to talk to him. Ollie got a call from his friend, and it may have been Jack, I read, but he was telling Ollie that, okay, your bike is stolen, but just meet me wherever so and so place with cash and we'll get your bike back, that they can help you. Like that is just, first of all, that is so weird. Did you take my bike?
Like his bike was being held ransom.
That's exactly what it sounds like here to me anyways.
Okay.
Like, okay, your bike's stolen, but just meet me with cash. Like, why are you telling me how are you going to get it back if you're not the one who took it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess Ollie was really concerned about that too. And he just had a bad feeling about it because he ends up giving his dad the phone to talk to
Okay.
Jack. And when his dad tried to talk to him, his friend hung up. Just hung up the phone.
Oh.
Which I get, your friend's parents came on the phone, you're like, oh shit, what do I do? Hang up. But this is obviously a different situation. So his dad kind of talked to Ollie a little bit more. about that interaction there, and Olly said to him, his dad's like, why would they want to meet you? Like, why would you have to meet them somewhere about your bike? And Olly said that they wanted to stab him as punishment because that's just
Oh,
the way that it works.
oh,
You're 13
what
is telling you
punishment?
this. I don't
Oh,
know. My next thing was, I don't really know what the punishment is for, but
oh.
like, what the
What do you
hell?
even do as a parent? Because, like, first of all, when you told me about the whole stitches get snitches, like,
Mhm.
honestly, if my 13-year-old said that
Yeah.
to me, I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Like, honestly, I wouldn't
Yes.
take it too seriously. But
Yeah.
then something like that, that's alarming to me.
Yeah, this was kind of the straw that broke the back in this case, like, or however that saying goes. Like, at this point, they
The
need to
straw
step
that broke the
in.
camel's back. Yeah.
Yes, at this point, the parents know they need to step in because something's obviously not okay. They and then to put the cherry on top of all of this, Ollie's aunt ends up reaching out to his parents to tell them that she has some big concerns after talking to Ollie herself, because I guess he had confided in her and told her that his parents that Ollie was possibly in a gang and things are getting really scary at this point, and that he's scared for his family and just like in general he's pretty scared, and that he's been he ended up being recruited and they've started to ask him to do things. And that's where more information comes out about when he took the train to London. So
Okay.
I guess when Ollie went to London, and it was so out of the blue, was because these friends of his ended up giving him a job, quote unquote.
Uh-oh.
They had given Ollie money and told him that he had to go to London to pick up a machete.
Machete?
Excuse me? So Ollie's 13 and he's trying to make new friends and he goes. I'm not saying it's right. It's just, it's a really tough situation. Anybody can get pulled into a bad situation. Um,
Yeah.
Ollie goes and meets with an adult, and the guy
What?
punches Ollie and leaves
Whoa,
him.
what the fuck?
Leaves him, takes the money, doesn't give him this package, punches him and leaves him.
What the hell?
So Ollie's left there with no package, no cash that they gave him. So
And
he's
no
going to come back.
machete.
Yes, and he's going to come back totally empty to these people.
Oh no.
So you can imagine that's obviously not going to go well, especially if these people are really in this gang.
How that even happen? Like, do people just decide we're a gang? I like, what the hell?
I really don't know, but I started thinking like how easy it is to get pulled into something at that age, or even just at like 16 to get pulled into something that you have no business being a part of or even knowing about.
Yeah.
Punched in the face. So now he has to go back and explain this. And yes, I was telling you that his aunt, like Ollie had confided in his aunt, who obviously had concerns. So she brought it to the attention of his parents. So now we have all of these instances that are starting to add up and be incredibly alarming for them. So the parents decided that it was obviously time to have the authorities step in. And this wasn't just like a 13-year-old kind of trying to figure themselves out. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
you can't just go to the police for every time your teenager
Doesn't do their homework or
gets
something.
in trouble. Yeah, gets in trouble or something.
Yeah, but it's good for his parents realizing that this has gone too far, way too far. I mean, his coming back with
Exactly.
punched face, probably
Well,
a black
yeah.
eye.
Yeah, so at this point things are getting really scary and Ollie's parents obviously can see that this is not just that this has gone way too far, and Ollie is scared and his parents are starting to get scared. And they're just trying to figure out what to do from here. So they start to monitor their son and try to just pay attention a little bit more to what activity he's got going on, especially in the social media world. So there started to become like rules with the phone, things like that. But remember, he's 13, so you're not going to get too much information.
Right. And he knows how to work his way around that. I mean, I'm sure
Of
every parent
course.
doesn't know, the secret apps or whatever,
No, of course. And even now, me and you, there's probably things we don't know. Like they're very
Yeah.
tech savvy. So Ollie's parents end up reaching out to the police to make a report, and they made a report specifically about the bike too, because that did go missing. So they reported the bike stolen, and from there, with all the information that they brought to light, a social worker was brought in. And the social worker was there to obviously check out the family, talk to Ollie, and see how he can help in this situation. And the social worker I saw in a documentary, he was like, honestly, Ollie's life, he had a loving family. He grew up in a nice neighborhood. Like, you wouldn't suspect that he would have gotten wrapped up in something like this. Like, it definitely wasn't his home life.
Yeah.
And it seems that there may have been a period where Ollie was trying to at least back away from the friends that he was hanging around with. He obviously could see that it wasn't going anywhere good and he was getting in way too deep. And that kind of leads us to Jess. I don't know if you remember me bringing her up earlier, but she was kind of known as a troublemaker, and she was about 14 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jess was 14 and Jess knew Ollie personally, but hadn't met these two boys in person. Okay, Jess would come around. It was kind of weird. She hadn't met these two boys in person, but were talking to them online, but she knew Ollie personally. Like, she had went to Ollie's house a couple times and everything.
Oh, okay.
But Jess and Ollie ended up having a little bit of a falling out, and she continued to speak to those boys online that
Not in
Ollie
person.
knew. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit weird. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, but I think it's because they're younger. It makes sense to them, you know? I
Yeah.
just, yeah. And that brings us to January 3rd, 2021. So
Okay.
Ollie and Jess, they're talking over text. And like I said, they had a little bit of a falling out, but they were talking about making plans to meet up and have a smoke together. And Ollie was going to try to talk to her and they were going to try to work some things out. But what Ollie didn't know was his friend Jess was, like I said, talking to the two other boys that he was trying to distance himself from. They were talking over voice notes and Snapchat and all these other social media platforms. And they were sending things before Ollie and Jess were going to meet up. They were sending, Jess and these guys were sending things like, karma. He deserves all of this. I actually hate the kid with a passion. If I was to see him right now, I'd probably end up killing him.
What? What are karma for what?
We'll get to that. Jess said, I'm at one point, I'm so excited you don't understand.
Ew.
Another kid said, I don't care if he fucking dies. I honestly don't.
What the fuck is wrong with these kids?
Hmm. Those messages were discussions of reconfirming their plan for Jess to lure Ollie to come to Bug Bottom's field that was near his house, and the two boys would be lying in wait for him. And once Ollie got there, they would jump out and attack him. That's what they were talking about.
Just attack him. It wasn't supposed to kill him.
Yeah, just attack him. But they said in their messages, I don't care if he fucking dies.
That's right. What the
They were there, they had a plan to brutally attack him. You obviously can see that. So just after 3:30 p.m., Ollie leaves his family house both him and his mom say I love you to each other, and he heads off to meet up with his friend Jess. And I will just say there is video footage of Ollie walking away from his house minutes before this
Haunting.
happened. I know. Shortly after this, Ollie ends up being stabbed once in the chest and once in the back.
Oh my God.
He would have been fighting off his one attacker while the other one took the opportunity to stab him.
What the fuck? And she's just standing there watching this happen.
Yeah. After the attack, they just head out of there and leave Ollie alone, who is profusely bleeding at this point.
Oh my God.
And it seems that Bug's Bottom was kind of like a trail where people would go for walks and stuff, because there was a woman walking nearby and actually seen Ollie, and it turned out that she was also a nurse. So she obviously jumped right into action trying to help him, and she calls 911, and you can find the 911 call. And I believe it's this woman who is speaking. They call 999, not 911. That's my fault. The woman who ended up was also a nurse and jumped in to help Ollie. She calls 999, and I was going to play the 999 call, but I'm not too sure how all of that works, so I'm not going to play it, but I'll just give you some information about how the call went. She says the 999 operator asks if Ollie is conscious and if he's breathing, and she says that he is, but he's been stabbed in the back and also in the chest, it looks like.
Oh my God.
And that he was bleeding really, like he was, like I said, bleeding profusely.
Bleeding to death. Yeah.
Yeah. She said that Ollie was bleeding from his mouth now and possibly going to go into cardiac arrest.
Oh my God.
Like, what the fuck? So the 999 operator had told her, okay, start doing chest compressions. But again, she's a nurse, so she knows what she needs to do. Yeah, my daughter just walked in with a full princess outfit, like purple gloves up to her elbows. Her dress is sparkly and like lighting up. And then she's got her crown on and everything, and her new purple runners she loves.
Oh my God, I heard her. That's so cute.
So yes, and eventually 999, while the nurse is trying to work on Ollie, a nurse and she's also just a bystander, 999 ends up dispatching an ambulance along with helicopter and police and everything. So now there's like chaos ensuing. And like I said, this is all happening only about 250 yards away from his parents, who are at their house.
Oh my God.
Thinking his son just went to meet up with a friend. And a younger boy, I don't know if he knew the family before this or anything, but he ends up taking the responsibility and running to Ollie's house and banging on the door, trying to get the attention of his parents. Amanda ends up, like Ollie's mom, Amanda, comes to the door and immediately finds out that her son has been stabbed. So
God.
She obviously starts screaming, and Stuart comes flying towards the door and just darts out the door, running across the field, like tunnel vision, like get to my son.
Yeah.
And when he got there, it was pretty clear that with the faces looking at him as he got there and the blood, that Ollie was gone.
Oh my God. And all these, you know what? It's so heartbreaking because there was a nurse, 999 was called, there's a helicopter, a kid ran and got, and they were just seconds too late, I bet.
I know. It's terrible. And they're right there.
Right there. Oh God.
Like, as a parent, you're like, okay, yeah. And you got to give your kids their independence. You can't hold on for dear life, because it's going to hinder them and their independence and trying to figure themselves out. Or it's going to make them rebel more. So you're like, okay, go meet your friend.
Yeah.
But
And they tried. They tried, though. They called, do you know what I mean? It's not like they completely did nothing.
Yeah, they tried to have conversations with their son. It
Like a
looks like
social
Olly was,
worker.
yeah, and it looks like Olly was receptive to those conversations. And sometimes what do you call it? The tornado or it's like all the recipes for
A
disaster just
disaster.
come together.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
fuck.
just gut wrenching.
Just like nothing they could do that was going to be the outcome.
Just terrible. And to run up and these people are looking at you like with just devastation. The first responders on the scene talked to Amanda and Stuart, and they said, of course, you can go in the ambulance ride because he ended up not going in the helicopter because unfortunately he had passed. So they said, yes, you can come into the ambulance with your son, but you can't touch him or hold him because he was now evidence at this point, and this was
Yeah,
a
he's a
crime
crime
scene.
scene. Oh,
How sick, how fucking, like, I understand the logic behind that, but holy,
I know. He all of a sudden he just turned into an object.
right? And 5 seconds ago, you're like, oh my God, like you're running as like fucking fast as you can, like tunnel vision, running towards your baby.
Just to
And
miss.
now, yeah, I don't like to wrap my head around it too much because it just makes me sick to think
Yeah.
about these parents having to go through something like this. Like it's just absolutely gut wrenching. And you're probably at this point, and I know you had asked, why? Why did this happen to 13-year-old Ollie? What could be so bad in their lives right now that
Yeah.
it would cause them to actually stab another child? And that is, I mentioned before that there was some punishment and recruitment going on.
Right.
But why would they actually plan to actually kill him? And why would why would they, in their texts that they're sending each other, why are they saying that it's karma and that he deserved all of this?
Oh my God.
So the reason they did this to Ollie was retaliation for Ollie snitching.
Snitching what?
So Ollie had seen a video of another child being bullied. So there was these kids and they were bullying another child and videotaping it. And I guess that's a thing now, and that's a whole nother avenue you can go down because I guess it's becoming
That's awful.
yeah, I guess it's like humiliating videos people will post online to get reactions.
What the hell?
It's disgusting.
It's
So
repulsive.
I guess that they had like Ollie thought that this was wrong, obviously. And it was being reposted and shared and sent amongst everybody. And so he was like, this is wrong. This is not okay. And he actually knew the victim's big brother. So Ollie showed the family of this person and was like, look what's happening. And apparently that was grounds to kill him for snitching. Hmm.
And oh my God. And we were saying earlier how he was such an empath.
Yeah. He saw that it was wrong and something had to be done, and so he did it, and this is what happened.
What? What the
Just for
fuck?
saying somebody is participating in bullying.
And they're like, I don't care if he dies.
Hmm.
What
And that
the
he
heck?
deserved it. Fucking
These are some mentally ill
disgusting. Yeah.
14-year-olds.
And unfortunately, we really don't know much because they are all minors.
And also in the UK, I think they protect them better too, their
Yeah.
identities and everything.
Hmm. Yeah. In the wake of Ollie's death, his parents' lives were altered forever. Their souls, their beings, everything about them,
Yeah.
because they're watching their worst nightmare play in real time. Like you see your kids are getting intertwined in something dangerous and you're concerned. This is the worst, like only in nightmares you think something like this would happen.
I know. And they tried so hard to intervene, but it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, no matter what they did, this was going to be the
Yeah.
outcome.
Hmm. And the three kids, after this all happened, and they stabbed Ollie, the three kids who did this fled the scene. And you can see a video of them walking, one walking and two on motorized scooters. Like
Oh
they're
my
obviously their faces are blurred out, but they're like just riding away. After this happened, they started to delete messages and pictures and videos and voice notes and just anything that they had, putting them there, talking about this, and they threw the weapon, and like this is all while they were fleeing the scene.
They're the fucking idiots. Like, you can't just delete messages.
Well, some
and
apps you can.
Oh, right. We were saying that with Snapchat.
Yeah. But still, there was a very big digital footprint here, which I don't think they were thinking about. Even though there's some apps that you can delete stuff, there's other apps you can certainly recover
Well,
information
and there's
from.
cameras everywhere.
There's cameras everywhere. And the digital footprint, that would be the absolute key in this case.
Yeah,
So
these kids are
following,
so fucking messy. And
yeah. There was a plan here, but it wasn't like, it was just like, yeah, fuck this kid, you know? They obviously
I
had
mean,
intentions to hurt him, but
they had no idea what to do after.
well,
And
and they brought
yeah,
a knife. But why did you bring a knife?
yeah.
So, following the murder, Ollie's sister felt a duty to help figure this out. She knew how to use all of these apps and everything, and like this was a nightmare. She needed to figure out who did something to her brother. Her
Her
thought,
little
I
brother, right?
guess, her little brother, and I guess her thought went right to Jess. They knew that he was going to go meet Jess, and Jess has come over to their house a couple times.
Oh, what a fucking bitch.
Right? She was like, you were just going to meet Jess right before this happened. Where is she? Why have we not heard from her? She messages Jess, and his sister goes, "Why would you do something like this?" And Jess says, "I was not involved sending love to your family."
Huh?
What the fuck? That's all you have to say?
Get fucked.
Seriously. So, her sister, Ollie's sister, again, I'm not going to say her name or anything because she doesn't need her name circulated everywhere. She has enough going on. Yeah, she also, after she texted Jess, she also posted on TikTok a picture of Ollie and looking for anybody to reach out with any information that they might know about this. Her posting on TikToks brought in floods of information that she went through, and she passed right on to her parents and the police. Like fucking badass. This
So it worked.
child. Yes. So she's like, like I said, the digital footprint here was very much key, and the police were able to find out very quickly who was involved. One, because they were just sloppy as fuck, thankfully, and two, they're just kids doing, or they're a bunch of kids doing this, and three, it's all over the internet.
Yeah.
So they started with his sister gave all this information, and they started with Ollie's phone, and they were able to quickly find out that he was speaking with Jess, and that immediately led them down the trail of talking with Jess. Now, when they spoke with her, she had already deleted any communications about the plan with Ollie and the other boys involved. But, and this is where I was going to say previously, even though some apps will delete information, like if you're talking to somebody and you're like, you delete your conversation with them, but they don't delete it,
Oh,
it's still
right.
going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may still be on the recipient's end. So the police end up interviewing about 50 kids and collecting data from about 40 phones.
Oh, wow.
Because it's
Everyone's
all
got a phone.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all kids involved in this. And what do? They live, eat, sleep, breathe their phones like we already do. Imagine how much
Mhm.
the kids do. They don't care about having a phone break.
No.
You know, like for us, we're like, okay, I need to be better. I need to be better about my phone. They're like, I don't really fucking care.
They're just on there all the time.
Yeah, so they collected the data from the phones, like combing through all of this. And there isn't much information about the interviews that they had with the kids because, again, it's all minors involved in this case. But I was able to see that there was some pretty damning messages sent from one of the boys after the murder. So even though they had gotten rid of some information, they were still talking after. So one of the boys said, "Boy, it was me and my boy in it. I started slapping him and then my boy backed out and then I shanked him."
Oh, gross.
Just talking like a bunch of uneducated idiots.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And again, there's not much information on how they got these kids, like arrested them because they're kids. So just bear with me. Um, Once the kids were detained, eventually they got all of them and they detained them and they began the trial and sentences. Again, I don't have much information about the what happened once they were arrested and what happened in the interrogation room and everything.
I'm sure one of them cracked because, again, they are 14 years old.
Yeah.
The fact that, remember that one kid, oh, of course you do,
Mhm.
it's your story. That one kid that called and then the dad got on there and then he chickened out because an adult got on the phone. So,
Yeah, he's only hard when it comes to the kids.
yeah.
Yeah, once the kids were all detained and began their trials and their sentences,
Yeah.
the girl, who again, I think her name is Jess, she pled guilty for her part. And I believe the charges were manslaughter and perverting the course of justice, which I
Oh, because she
believe,
lied.
yeah, and she also started to delete information, like she knew it was wrong. And she ended up being sentenced initially to 3 years and 2 months. But then just months later, the judge was like, yeah, fuck, that's like nothing, and upped it to 5 years and 2 months. And she was 14 at the
That's
time.
still nothing.
Yeah, I mean, she knew that they were gonna attack him. She set it up.
Yeah, she set it up.
hmm the two boys pled not guilty and went to trial.
For
The
reasons of what?
Yeah, I don't know. The sentencing began on September 24th, 2021. One of the boys was sentenced to, I believe their sentences were, one of the boys was sentenced to life with a minimum of 13 years. And
Okay.
the other was sentenced to life with a minimum of 12 years, if I understood their sentencing correctly. The parents of Olly sat through every piece of the trial.
Oh, yeah, because they pled not guilty.
hmm The
Oh,
the
those
girl did
fuckers.
pled guilty, but the boys they didn't. So they sat.
They did.
Those parents were like, we needed to. We needed to, as hard as it was, we had to be there for Ollie and sit through it. I read somewhere too that they even had put a rugby shirt by them in support of Ollie being there.
Oh,
Like just gut wrenching. And I'm not going to go into too much. Like, I'm not going to read everything that their parents said at the sentencing, but I'll give you a little bit.
yeah.
At the
Okay.
sentencing, Ollie's dad, or one of the sentencings at least, Ollie's dad said, "We are strong enough to deal with most problems thrown our way, but this has completely broken us. Ollie trusted people too much. It was part of his makeup, part of his autism, and it was why we loved him. Had he asked me for help that day, I would have moved heaven and earth to give it to him. He knew no sense of danger. He stood up for himself in a confrontation and was unable to back down, but was kind and loving." He
Oh
also,
my
like, just
God.
so sad. He also said, he also asked in the court, what kind of evil lures a kid to their death?
A fucking bitch named Jessica.
So fucking sick. Sick.
And she's only getting 5 years. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have gone.
He was trying to get away from these guys. He was just trying to mend a broken relationship with Jess, who had been to their house. Like, his parents have seen her.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh
only
my,
reason he's like, okay, I'll meet with you. He had no idea these people that he was trying to get away from and work with his
we're gonna be
parents to
right
get
there.
away from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he was gonna go to it wasn't like he was gonna go to a fight or whatever. Do you
Yeah,
know, it was
he
like, oh, I need
wasn't
to
like,
fight these guys.
yeah, he wasn't getting back into the situation that he was trying to get out of.
No, he just wanted to be friends. Yeah. Oh my
Mhm.
God.
Mhm. There's a lot that they came to light in this. One is that there's minimal restrictions on what is sent to kids on social media. Like you sit there and scroll, but then the amount of stuff that gets sent, like just by the algorithm and
Oh
stuff that they
yeah.
shouldn't see is just disgusting. There's really
Yeah, there's
not,
lots of murder videos online.
yeah. And there's really not much that seems to go into actually verifying somebody's age. Like it's very easy to just lie
Yeah, you
and
just
get
put
an
in a different
account.
year.
Yeah, exactly. So you can lie, and then so the algorithm thinks that you're of age and you're getting sent all this terrible stuff that you shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, so
Um,
they're fighting to get that changed.
yes, like that also like that includes allowing them to receive videos of guns and knives and yeah, murders, things like that.
That's
Um,
so hard. That's so sticky because there's video games with all that. And like,
yeah,
where do you draw the line?
it's very true, but I will say like it's just it's baffling to me that some social media apps allow videos and pictures of like guns and knives and stuff, but you don't, first of all, you don't know somebody's intentions. Like maybe there's like a gun or a knife shop and you're trying to promote it, but you don't know somebody's intentions when they're posting something like that. And how is the most, like we said this before, the most minuscule thing is flagged, but then you have somebody who's actually fucking 14 and is posting that shit, like showcasing the knife that they have. And that doesn't get
Yeah,
flagged.
I know. I don't know. It gets too sticky, I guess. It just
It
gets too
does.
involved.
Like, and you've got
Yeah.
this 14-year-old who's trying to act like a gangster,
Fucking loser.
like make his persona. It's just disgusting. So after they lost their son, Amanda and Stuart have been a very crucial part in getting a bill passed that will do a couple things. It will require age verification on porn sites, uh, new rules around cyber flashing, which I actually didn't know what that was. So I looked into it, and I guess just like the gist is when you send people pictures of yourself or something to someone that didn't want them. I guess
Unsolicited.
like yeah, like I guess somebody sitting in the same room and you're like, what's that
Oh,
called?
airdrop.
Yeah, when you
Airdrop.
like like you can like airdrop somebody a picture of your tits or something, and you fucking shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, no. Nobody should be sending unsolicited dick pics. Stop it.
No,
Stop doing that. Nobody
honestly,
wants that. She doesn't want
nobody's.
one. Stop it.
She doesn't want. I'll tell you, she
If
does not
you're thinking about that, don't
want
do it.
one. No, nobody, no chick wants one, honestly. They also will have an option for parents who have lost their kids to actually be able to get information about their child. Like it will
Okay.
make it easier for them to be able to get into their socials.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
They've joined a campaign to steer young people away from violence and knife crime because he was stabbed again by 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they've done a charity walk marking their son's 17th birthday in November last year. Only
Okay.
17.
Yeah, that's horrific.
And the charity raffles at this event was going to parenting kids with special needs, children's mental health counseling, and then a Ben Kinsella Trust, which is an
Okay.
anti-knife crime education charity.
Okay. Well, wow, yeah, you'd have to be so strong of a person to take
Mhm.
something so horrible and turn it around and try to do good out of
Yeah,
it.
like just trying to find some sort of life at the end of the tunnel, but never seeing your son at the end of it is just like, I don't know. I give these parents just so much respect for this
Yeah,
because
respect.
they felt something was wrong and they were trying, and you can't push your kids at this
No,
age. You have
Well,
to
you don't
talk to
think
them
that,
and listen to them.
yeah, and you don't think that something like this is going to happen.
No, I would think the worst thing you think would happen is he gets in a fight.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, let's maybe not do that.
Yeah, you have to sit down with the principal because they're getting detention or something,
Well, exactly. So that is the terrible story of Ollie
Yeah,
Stevens
that was horrible.
and
That was
the
horrible.
amazing things that Amanda and Stuart have tried to do since.
Yeah, good
But
for
yeah.
them.
Yeah. And that's it for this week.
Remember, it's a dark world out there. See you,
See you
creatures, next week.